two teams together that look like they could well be in the top four for a fair while yet. And it's early in the season, but Atalanta at home to Fiorentina, Napoli at home to Torino. Jonathan, come to you first. Leading the way at the top of the Serie A table, which of these two do you think has more staying power?
Well, I think definitely given the last couple of seasons, I think Atalanta, are probably the one that you would fancy to go furthest. I mean, I think Atalanta for a while had been a victim of their own success last season, where, I think they almost became, as opposed to being sort of an underrated dark horse of Europe, they became rated, and then suddenly the expectations on them were much higher, and it was harder for them to live up to those expectations. Now, out of European competition, they're able to get back to sort of doing what they were best at. And I mean, I do think as well, there have been signs over the last sort of 12 to 18 months that, Gasperini has fallen out with some of the key players as well. Obviously, very sad to sort of see the demise of Ilicic, who was such a star performer for that Atalanta side that looks so swashbuckling on the Champions League stage. And then there was obviously the very public falling out with Papu Gomez as well. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Fiorentina and what they're doing under Vincenzo Italiano, but I do feel that Atalanta, of these two sides, are probably best set at this moment in time to perhaps dispute the Champions League places. But don't rule the Viola out. I think they've become a lot more pragmatic and sort of living up to their historic name in the last couple of years, which is refreshing because there had been some really, really lean times in Florence.
Well, I don't really think there's much I can add to that, James. Jonathan just took it all. Didn't even give me a chance to speak. But I think that for me, the big thing is we've seen Atalanta play at such a great level and really develop in these past couple of years while competing also in the Champions League. I think what gives them a great edge this year is the fact, again, like Jonathan said, there's no European competition. And I was very impressed with the Roma game. And the thing about when I say I'm impressed with that fact is, even though I said Roma did have the better chances, is the fact of how they weathered the storm. I think for me, defensively, they've got even better this year in the sense of how they're defending. They still play very attacking football when they can get forward, but they're not leaving themselves as open as we've seen at times, which has cost them games. I think they've got great talent. Lockman also managed to come onto the pitch with a little bit of British connection there. A young guy's gone into Italy, gone into that team, working hard, came on. But I feel that really and truly they are probably the one that has the slight edge, just in the fact of not having Europe to deal with this year, and they're just kind of adding more layers to what they've been building for recent years, and it's really working. And the club is really run well, and it's well structured. While Fiorentina, as Jonathan said, are coming up now, but Fiorentina have always been kind of, would you describe Fiorentina as a bit of a roller coaster, or more downs than ups, really?
It's a sleeping giant as well. I think we all
it's a definite sleeping giant, but there've been more downs than ups for them, and I just don't think they've got it right for a long time. You're talking from the days of Gabriel Batistuta days and Rui Costa and all those players.
I think the last sort of real time in the sun that they had was Prandelli's first spell, where they really sort of were almost darlings of Europe, certainly sort of domestic darlings for a little while. Had Luca Toni performing really well, was sort of enjoying the Indian summer of Adrian Mutu's career, Sebastian Frey, guys like that. But there is sort of a historic expectation, I think, on the club that they hadn't managed to live up to for quite some time. Obviously, Prandelli's second coming was hugely underwhelming, which, led to him basically walking away from the game. And it is good to see them getting back there now and some positivity around the club again.
I think you're both mad, by the way, when we're talking about Atalanta and Napoli. I think it's pretty crystal clear to me that Napoli are the team that are more likely to, and I actually think they're the team that may well end up winning Serie A outright. I mean, I think we're seeing, even now with someone like Victor Osimhen going down, that Gio Simeone is a solid Serie A striker. That midfield actually looks quite strong. We've not seen much of Tanguy and Ndombele. Giacomo Raspadori as well. What a game he had against England in the Nations League. I think this Napoli team have real talent. You've got to question the staying power until they show it. But Nigel, you look like you have something you want to say. I know there'll be lots of people saying, when are you going to talk about the Premier League? But
no. My thing was this. When I was talking about Atalanta, I was more concentrating with Atalanta and Fiorentina. When we're talking about all of them together, which you grouped up, I would agree with you. I would say Napoli. I am very, very impressed by what I've seen with Napoli so far, not just in Serie A, but also in the Champions League. And again, if they can avoid any more major injuries, for me, they are the one. I really feel they're such a great team. And you can tell by how they're playing as well. Sometimes, you can see that there's a great togetherness in that squad, in that unit, by how the players react with one another when a goal is scored, how the game goes on. There's not really any throwing of the arms and, oh, you should have passed that here. There's a real togetherness and team spirit. We watched them play AC Milan as well, and how they got that win there. I just feel, for me, it is absolutely fantastic. And this could be a fairy tale season for Napoli. I'm a big Napoli fan, tremendous talent, great players there that I really like and enjoy watching. And they're playing football in the modern era, so to speak, not your typical traditional Italian style of football. They're willing to attack, they get forward, they leave themselves vulnerable at times, but there's belief in the players that they can handle that in one-on-one situations. But I will definitely agree with you, James, even though you are a Gooner, I would agree with you that Napoli, for me, definitely, I think they do have what it takes to win the Serie A, bar they don't get any more serious injuries or any serious injuries.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think they've shown well so far. Very impressive in Europe as well, obviously, with that big win over Liverpool. The only thing I would say is that they still have to get past that tricky period around Christmas time, which, obviously they're going to have the break for the World Cup. But when they lost osimhen last winter, that really sort of derailed their season. So I think if they can learn to sort of channel that experience into avoiding the same mistakes this time around, then yes, I definitely think they're well set to not only challenge, for the title, but potentially ultimately go and win it as well. I really like the way that the team has been overhauled, and I think Spalletti has the bit between his teeth this season after the disappointment of last campaign. So certainly, I think that both Napoli and Atalanta, since we're merging them together, have the potential, to sort of challenge there at the very top. But if I had to pick a team based, at this moment in the season, I'd probably go for Napoli just over them. Over Atalanta, but it is a close call, and I do think that it will be quite telling to see sort of how Napoli fare just sort of coming out of the beginning of next year, 2023.
So we started that section with JJ picking Atalanta over Napoli. End it with JJ picking.
I was picking Atalanta.
Napoli.
I was picking Atalanta over Fiorentina. So slightly.
Yeah, I'm with you there, John.
I'm with
you because I did the same thing as well. There was a little bit. I thought we were coming on to that next, James, but we got it right.
I think we're going to need the tape replayed to see what
in any case, two very good teams. So I think we'll be up and thereabouts, challenging for the Champions League all season.